my name's Tara Bishop. I grew up in Orem and lived there for most of my life until I actually live in Moab now, which is super awesome. But I've been really involved with this Utah Lake project and trying to, my roots are still here in Utah County. We still own a home here, and my family still lives here. And so I kind of started getting involved with Utah Lake stuff as word started getting out in the news about, legislative actions and, Ben Abbott being involved and becoming more public with that stuff. And so I reached out to Ben and was like, how do I be a part of this conversation? And that's all it took to him just throwing me in. And so I got connected with Conserve Utah Valley and all the great folks there. And it led from one thing to the other where I led out on the response for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and how bad the LRS permit proposal was. And with my expertise in government permitting processes, I was able to help kind of guide and organize that response to that organizing or the permitting agency. And then with that, I think that one of the highlights of volunteer work is really understanding that individual action, vote, choice, all of it, I think really matters. So when he said the great volunteers, I'm like, I would never have thought of myself that way. But honestly, I think I can see the snowball effect where I started participating in these conversations. I then helped write this letter, which kind of led me to realize that there was a lot of missing stuff from LRS and communicating with the public and the mistrust that came with that. And as a former public school teacher, I find that public education is critical in any conversation. And so I started using my skills that I already had to be able to help add to the work that everyone else was doing. And so I made these maps to show what the lake would look like with all of these buildings on it. Those started being shared widely. I then ended up writing an op-ed for the Salt Lake Tribune. And that ended up getting to some people that LRS apparently had asked them for funding. And they see this op-ed and they're like, whoa, maybe we shouldn't be funding this. And they called me and asked me to come speak to them because they just wanted to hear both sides of the story, right? So here's this just snowball effect of one simple action of me reaching out and being like, how can I help, right? And it's all within the bandwidth that I have, the skill set that I already have, right? I'm not putting all this extra effort into creating something new for myself and more work. I was doing what I could with what I had. And I think that as far as conservation goes, as far as education goes, the work that I've been able to do with Utah Lake, I don't know if you could measure the impact, but not all of us are going to be the Dr. Ben Abbotts of conservation in the public face, but I think that all of us with individual impacts might be able to be more of a Tara Bishop, and then you get a whole room of those and a whole team of those, and then you see the impact that really has can then become measurable. And so I still am trying to help out with Utah Lake. It's still not over. Because Utah Lake still has progress to go, still has progress to be made, and it's really inspiring to see what other people are going. But I think that with the grassroots effort, one of the other important things is to realize that I have a full-time job, I have a full-time family, and I have a full-time life. And so I do what I can within the bandwidth that I have and with the skill set that I've already developed to be able to add to the conversation and help the group as they have. So that's kind of been my experience, and I just hope to, that you guys can pull some inspiration and realize that every single one of you has a set of skills that can be offered to the conversation. So thank you for that.